Hi, this is Diane Greco-Allen, and I am back to talk about oxalates and about other qualities in nuts that might be causing some issues for some people who are transversing from all that processed food now into whole foods. And they're looking at all the milks with the nut alternatives and trying to use some of those products, coconut, almonds, pecans, walnuts, which are supposed to be great for brain health. And I actually picked up some chestnuts to compare some things. Now, this is piggybacking two other videos on autism and some other issues that we might be seeing with brain health and kidney health. I had worked with some children over at one of the schools, and I saw a lot of kids that were in some of the really delayed programs that were dealing actually with what I could see physically as kidney disease. And some of them may have had like hepatitis, forms of hepatitis and pancreatitis, which are misunderstood in the population because we always think of it as a very negative thing, but we want to get to the place where we're talking about eating healthier, reducing the amount of sugars we put in our foods. And as we age, we are dealing with some little junctures with how we fit our foods in and the quantity. So it's not so much how much you're eating, it's what you're eating in the quality of the food. All right, so we had talked about spinach and how that can elevate your oxalate levels. And there was vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K1, folic acid, iron, and calcium. So calcium is a big one. I want everybody to pay attention to this calcium and the magnesium, but you want to think about the periodic table when you went to school and think about all those minerals on that periodic table and how we are affected by them and what we do every day. So I picked up some almonds and I just wanted to go over these real quick because on the back you can see it gives you all the list of everything that's in there. And when you talk about calcium, calcium's in here, iron is in spinach, iron's in here, potassium is in a lot of our foods that we do not realize. And if you have a potassium imbalance or you consume way too much potassium, you can actually cause some harm and damage. And it can cause some heart issues, it can cause some intestinal issues, it can cause a number of muscle spasms, intestinal spasms, all kinds of things. So this has copper, very small amount, which we do need that small little bit. Vitamin E. So almonds have vitamin E. So if you're relying on a supplement, you want to remember that if you're eating almonds, that maybe it's one or the other, or depends on how you're able to absorb your food. So you might want to try to figure out which works best for you. Riboflavin, which of course is one of the B vitamins, phosphorus, which helps with bone health and mineralization, magnesium, 80 milligrams. This has magnesium. So does the other, let's see, which nut? Cashews have magnesium. So if you're eating too much, if you're doing the butters, you don't need a lot. And this is where a lot of people are going to have trouble because we went from peanut butter, now we're doing cashew butter, now we're doing all the different nut butters, and some people are just glopping on these tons of butters, and they can cause some thyroid issues, they can cause some other gastrointestinal issues, and then manganese, which is very important. So these are all just little, those micronutrients that we need that come from the earth are found in the nuts. Now, some of these nuts can be old, and you have to be very careful about how you handle your nuts. But I would put them in the refrigerator if you're able to, because you don't want them sitting out. If you can freeze some of the packages in the freezer, that's fine. Also, consider putting them in small bags so that you don't overeat the nut, the nuts. And I showed in one of my videos how you can make little small containers and space that out. If you're going to sit down and eat a ton of nuts, I am going to tell you, like we used to have at the bars, they'd have all the nuts out at the bar. And in my house, we had a lot of shelled peanuts. So not only do they know that peanuts can have black mold and different types of molds because of the casing on the nut and the way that it's handled. And then on top of that, it's an omega-6, which causes high inflammatory markers in the body. So if you eat a ton of those peanuts and you're not eating your omega-3s, you're going to throw things way off. And then, believe it or not, if you're overdosing on those high carbohydrates, which are the sugars from breads, pastas, the butter has a carbohydrate, which is the, a lot of people are lactose intolerant, but you got to think of these different places where sugars are hidden also, and those sugars can be hidden all through your food. The other thing that in this one, the pecans, there's vitamin A, which I mentioned also is in spinach and also in carrots. And a lot of people take these or eat a lot of these, and they're juicing large amounts of these products, and they could cause some damage in other areas of your body. So vitamin C, vitamin D, calcium, again, in your nuts. Where do you get your calcium, huh? Iron and potassium. So almost everything that I've looked at in the bean family, if you look at any of the legumes and any of the, we're eating tons and tons of garbanzo beans that are smashed and, made into all the hummus. And we're overdosing on some of these nutrients that could be helpful and beneficial. But when you minimize that, you break it down to such a small form of that food, then it can create some other issues in your body because you're just overdoing it. And a lot of people are just drinking tons of that stuff, and so they end up with all kinds of problems. Now, this chestnuts, during the holidays, we use chestnuts in our stuffing or whatever, and sometimes we would do different types of dishes with chestnuts. And I want you to think about this. You really don't need refined sugar at all because it's right here in your food. It's in your fruit, it's in your nut. Okay, so chestnuts have at least, let's see how many sugars. It's not a lot in this one, so 17 carbohydrates. So this is a carbohydrate. These are excellent if you want to take like one or two with you with a little bit of nuts. If you're going out on a journey, you don't need a lot. And that's where I think we fall. We buy the big bags and we sit and we just eat them and indulge in all these extra nutrients that actually could cause a problem. Now, these are, like I said, higher in carbohydrates, but if you're out hiking and things like that, maybe one or two in your little bag wouldn't be harmful, as long as you're not drinking extra sugars and carbohydrates. And milk, just going to say, is just going to cause lots of disastrous issues in your digestive tract and your mental health. And if you do a calcium overdose, I don't know if you've ever felt that sensation that your brain is like all fogged up. You can't figure out what you're doing. You forgot everything that you were doing. Calcium imbalances can cause that. And so can sodium chloride and, any of the electrolyte imbalances can cause some mental health related memory issues as well. But so now, these are supposed to be excellent for walnuts. Think of the brain and the way the walnut looks if you look at it. These are excellent in just having excellent fats, omega-3s. And it also has alpha linolenic acid, which a lot of people are taking supplements with. Okay, I want you to think also of the word lecithin. There's a lot of people out there, and if you look on some of your supplements, you'll see lecithin on there. Lecithin is found in eggs. Okay, so we got to look at what our foods are, where they're coming from, what those foods might have been processed with, or maybe their surroundings. Some of the chickens depending on where they were raised, might have disease. And so our body reacts to those things, and they're just finding out too that cows that have Lyme's disease also affects us if we eat red meat and show an allergy. So there's all kinds of things. But I wanted to mention in these nuts, I don't want to scare you, I just want you to make you aware that some of these things happen, and there are other viruses out there that when we consume foods that are not handled properly can cause massive diarrhea and all kinds of issues, and then put you into a state of dehydration, then you're blocked up and go back and forth. But also this has polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats. So the total fat content is 18 grams of this, and it has magnesium, iron, vitamin C, copper. Actually, there's no vitamin C in here. Copper, calcium, and magnesium. So when you think about magnesium, there are some things to consider. If you're magnesium intolerant, you might be dealing with some kidney issues. And sometimes you can see that. I remember taking a magnesium citrate, and it did nothing for me. I mean, I was like, well, what was supposed to be the result of that? And at that time, I was probably already to a point of some kidney dysfunction. So you want to think about small amounts, smaller containers, and think of those shot glasses. That might be like give you a helpful, I can put some nuts in those shot glasses and just eat a few throughout the day, or eat this type of nut today and that type of nut tomorrow, and rotate your nuts so you don't go nuts. So this is Diane Greco-Allen, food relationship coach. This is a backup on the topic of autism spectrum disorder. This also piggybacks a little bit about diabetes, because that also plays with your kidneys, and you want to think about thyroid health, kidney health, liver health, and those cholesterol things go way out of whack when you're overdosing on too many carbs, too many proteins, or too many. A lot of people are on high carb diets, like just eating all the starches. And there are starchy vegetables too that people would rather eat than the green leaf vegetables. And I understand that some of these things can be a little tricky when introducing them, because they may have had a bad experience in the past with introducing greens. So you want to just be gentle with your body, just eliminate those things that are causing real big inflammatory problems, and then introduce little bits at a time with the other things. Avocados are relatively safe, but if they go brown, they can cause some issues too. We want to stay away from a lot of bananas, because a lot of people, bananas will make you go bananas, and you don't want to go bananas, but it also could turn you into a spin. You can get dizzy, lightheaded. It's not just the starches, there's other things related to potassium. So I want to end on that note, and we want to talk about just bringing mindfulness to your plate. And contact me if you'd like at the bottom of my talk, and make sure you subscribe to my channel, ring my bell, ring my bell. Okay, you guys might not know that song, but one of my favorites from college. So do what you can, and thank you for joining me today. I hope that you learned something new about nuts. Not to go nuts. You don't want to go nuts. Put your nuts in the refrigerator. Thank you, Diane Greco-Allen.